Hi, today we're going to look at how the nervous system actually works, particularly alongside your perimenopause symptoms. So you might quite often see the term regulate your nervous system thrown around. But what does that actually mean? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to your friend? Because you may well find that the two of you will come up with completely different answers. So, what is regulating your nervous system? Does it mean to sitting and having a hot drink and relaxing? Does it mean reading your book? Perhaps meeting with friends, going out for a walk? It can mean different things to everybody, but the term is thrown around all over the place in social media, on the news, amongst friends. So this podcast really is just to discuss the nervous system, how it operates, because when you're in perimenopause, it's really, really important to understand what's actually going on in your body. Without that basic knowledge, you can't help yourself. And all of my coaching programs, all of my work, this is the basis of all of it. So, your nervous system um, has three stages, which you can refer to as the traffic light stage. Now, I'm going to show you a slide just for a visual look at that. So, here on the right, you've got your nervous system. So, the traffic lights are green, as you see at the bottom, and the green area is where you feel safe, you're very calm, you're feeling good, you're grounded. There might be some creativity, you're happy to, enjoy time with friends. Um, and you're feeling very rested, curious about life and settled. So this is where you want to be. You want to be in your green area. The next area up is the amber area, which is where you start to feel irritated. Now, if you're in perimenopause, you will know this feeling. It does happen quite frequently. As your body is changing and your hormones are changing, you will start to have less patience with things. So you might be in amber quite frequently throughout the day and week. So the amber is where you're starting to feel triggered and anxious. A lot of women talk to me about anxiety in perimenopause, which I'll come to in a minute why that increases. Um, but you become triggered, you have less patience, you might be lacking rest, overworking, overgiving to others, beginning to neglect your needs, perhaps, and just not feeling that great. And then the final stage is the red area, which is where you've really, really pushed it far too far. This is where you're completely exhausted. You have no pleasure in anything. You might feel numb. You begin shutting down, freezing, having really bad mood. Just don't want to take part in anything. So that's the traffic light system of your nervous system. So, as I said earlier, you want to be in the green zone. Realistically, you're going to, in a day, in a week, in a month, you're always going to go between green and amber, back down again. Now, it's the back down again that is where my work helps you, because you can go up into amber and then into red. But how do you come back down? How do you regulate your nervous system? In perimenopause, you also experience, so you have this is for every single person, this traffic light system. But in perimenopause, you're also experiencing the changes within your body of the hormones. So, in a nutshell, perimenopause changes the levels of your estrogen and progesterone in your body, which are the two main hormones that a woman has. It controls your cycle, and controls your mood, controls many things, bone density. All of those things become something that you need to be aware of when you're in perimenopause and in menopause. So it's the lowering of the progesterone, which is in the latter half of your cycle, but also the misregulation of the estrogen, which makes your body release cortisol. Now, cortisol is your stress hormone, and cortisol is so much higher in perimenopause. So your nervous system, coming back to the green, yellow, and red, your nervous system is much more likely to always be in amber. So I'll bring that up again just so that you can see it again. So you're going to feel a lot more irritable. Going to feel like running away. You can't cope. You're overwhelmed with what's happening. You're pleasing people, you're over giving. You might feel angry about that. You might have a real sense of losing yourself and feel angry about that because your attachment to the previous version of what you used to be is so strong, and you still want to be that. You still want to have the energy levels. You still want to be able to do all the things at the pace that you used to be able to do them. But in perimenopause, unfortunately, your energy changes, your needs change, what you're able to do changes. So you have to be able to understand your nervous system, and then you will be able to understand your needs. So something else I wanted to show you today is the correlation between your nervous system and the burnout cycle. Now, when you're in perimenopause, your burnout cycle will happen much quicker. Reason being that your energy decreases because of the changes in hormones, but also because as women, we find it quite difficult to accept that we have to change the way we do things. So, for an example, between family events or days out or meeting friends or even just doing daily tasks, household chores, you might find that you need to have a rest between doing them. And that's something that's very difficult to accept at first because you want to be able to do it as you did when you were 30. And through doing that, you're not helping yourself. All you're doing is exhausting yourself quicker, putting yourself into amber zone and red zone. So let's take a look at that. So here on the burnout, you have the 5 stages of burnout. The first stage is your honeymoon phase. So this correlates with the green stage of your nervous system. You're feeling happy, you're motivated, you're curious, you really want to get out there and do that stuff. So off you go. You may well say to somebody, "Oh, I'll meet you every week for the next 6 months." Because you're really into it and you have the energy for it. Then stage 2 is you start to feel a bit stressed. So this is where you begin to move from green into amber. You're becoming a little bit irritable. Your energy's dropping a little bit, and you might feel a bit anxious. It's that cortisol area of your body, the anxiety's coming in. You might be over giving to people and really resenting that. So that's stage 2. And normally we, in the back of the mind, recognize this, but we carry on going, which is the mistake. So it's really recognizing the anxiety, recognizing you're overgiving to people, recognizing that you're becoming irritable, that you're resentful of what you're doing. This is where you need to stop and think to yourself, How can I do this differently? Stage three is where you become very stressed. So this is where you're beginning to move from yellow, you're moving from amber into the red zone, which is where you do not want to be. Because believe me, once you hit burnout in perimenopause, it can take you months, even years to recover. So please do not go into the red zone. And then you have stages 4 and 5. Stage 4 is when you hit the red zone. So you're completely exhausted. You lose all interest in everything. And you're just like, I have no capacity to do that. I just can't do it. Even if you have to. It perhaps even the thought of driving to your local supermarket is just draining, just the thought of it without even doing it. So this is when you're in your red zone, so you might feel guilty, blaming yourself because you need to rest, but it's so drummed into us by society, especially for women, that we have to keep going and we have to keep giving and we have to look after everybody all the time. So you ignore this and you keep going and you keep going and you keep going. And that is when you get to stage 5, which is habitual burnout. Now, if you push yourself there, you are really going to know about it. So my advice to you, and the reasons why I'm showing this to you as a woman in perimenopause, is try to stay in your green zone and notice, really notice when your body starts to go into amber. Notice the anxiety and the irritability, because that is your body telling you that you need to stop. So the question is, what can you do? How can you track your burnout cycle? How can you track what's happening within your body? How can you regulate your nervous system? So something that really worked for me was to track my cycle, my energy cycle. So I do this regularly for the day and also for the month. So, you can look at a day. Morning can be like the green zone, afternoon is the amber zone, evening is the red zone. So it's your energy level depleting. That's what you want to be looking for, the depletion of your energy level. And also when you're doing something, when you're doing a task for somebody, or, you meant to say no to that thing, but you said yes, and now you're doing it and you're hating every second of it. Notice, how does that make you feel? You know, does it make you feel good? Does it make you feel like running away and shutting down, hiding under a duvet? How does it make you feel? And when you pay attention to how these things make you feel, then you will know what you have capacity for and what you don't, because you want to do things that nourish you and make you feel good. Yes, it's real life. We all have to do things that we don't want to do. We all have to suffer that, unfortunately. But in today's society, we suffer it too much and we don't do enough of the things that nourish us. So, what are things that nourish us? It's understanding that rest is productive, number one. It's okay to have a pajama day. It's okay to read the books that you've been on your shelf for months on end. It's okay to go out for a walk. It's okay to say no to somebody. And it's okay to use no as a full sentence. You do not have to explain yourself. If you have no capacity to do it and you say no, the other person just has to accept that. And they do. They might push back it originally, but eventually they will accept that you're not going to do everything for them anymore. And it's so liberating, so give it a try. So yeah, track your energy cycles, throughout the month as well is an interesting one. Week 1, 2, 3, 4. How does your energy shift in those weeks? Note it down in a diary or on your wall calendar. Then you will know which weeks you have higher energy, which weeks you have lower energy, and which weeks you have no energy at all. And then you can realistically plan how you're going to schedule your life and enjoy what you've scheduled. Think about it. How many things do you schedule and then cancel at the last minute because you're just so exhausted? 2 weeks ago, you were like, yay, I'll do that. And it comes around to it and you just don't have that capacity. And a way to regulate your nervous system, a favorite of mine. Again, the basis of all of my work is breath work. A really good way to regulate your nervous system simply is to do box breathing. So that's breathing through your nose. You will inhale to a count of four, hold your breath in for a count of four, exhale for a count of four, hold the breath out for a count of four, and then begin again. In for four, hold for four, out for four, hold out for four. And keep that pattern going for at least 2 minutes. The longer you do it, the more relaxed you become. But 2, 3 minutes should do it. And of course, when you feel overwhelmed, when you feel like everything is closing in on you and you just haven't got the capacity, you haven't got the patience, you haven't got the time, you haven't got the energy, please just step aside. Even if it's just for 1 minute, go into the nearest bathroom and just breathe for a minute. Just take 1 minute for you. So I hope that that's helped you today. Do let me know if you have any comments or if you would like to discuss it further. I'm always up for discussing um, menopause symptoms with other ladies. It's one of my joys in life. So, yeah, have a great day, everybody. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will be seeing you soon. Bye.